I recently started a Substack, and I got a request from one of my patrons on Patreon to read my Substack posts aloud and put them on YouTube so that everybody can hear what I have to say, because there are a lot of people who don't do Substack for a number of reasons. There are issues with the platform. I totally understand. I made a Substack and I had it for a whole year before deciding to post on it. I'm only posting there because I got so much feedback from people who are like, where are you? Where are you on here? But I understand why people either have disagreements with the platform and don't want to use it, or they just like can't handle another platform. And I want to make it really clear here, none of my posts on Substack are ever going to be behind a paywall. I don't believe in having pay to play when it comes to permaculture. Permaculture was supposed to be accessible to all people. It's one of the reasons that I am not a fan of PDC permaculture design certificate courses, because people should never be paying $1,500, $10,000 to get information about permaculture that Bill Mollison always meant to be free. I don't want to have people unable to access any of the concepts I discuss because they can't afford it. So I've always very much relied on the gift economy. Same with my Patreon. I don't put things content behind a paywall. I just trust that if people enjoy my work, they'll throw a couple of bucks at me. And that will all even out so that people who can't afford to do that can still enjoy reading my work or watching my work. That very much for me falls under that permaculture ethic of fair share. I would rather somebody read my work and not pay me for it and trust that, right, like at the end of the day, we're all going to contribute to each other and everybody will do all right. So please know you can go read my Substack posts and you don't have to pay for it. But also for people who would rather I read it out loud, sure, okay, let's do that. I'm open to suggestions all the time. The post that I put out at like 1:45 in the morning is entitled, I was going to write an entirely different post. In the race to stop fascism, grief still demands to be felt. There's this band, Jars of Clay. I was an instant diehard fan from the moment their mid-90s breakout hit Flood dropped. I was 16. Long before I realized they were a Christian band, all the way until I left the church for good in my 30s. Their lead singer, Dan Hazeltine, has this brittle, vulnerable quality to his voice, and their lyrics are often desperately raw and melancholic, even when the song is supposed to be joyful or worshipful. Their music was a lifeline for me in so many ways for so many years, wrestling with doubt and the anguish of trying to be fully human within the constraints of American society and the harsh judgment of the church. I am no longer a practicing Christian, and I went many years without listening to a single Jars song, but there are these moments in 2025 when I'm drawn back over and over to Jars music, which is just as powerful as it ever was. Lately, these moments are increasing in frequency. This morning, I sat down to write an entirely different Substack post. My plan was to write about hyper-local solutions and aggregating our power as the groundswell of grassroots resistance. I'm still working on that post. It'll be coming out later this week. I paused to film my usual videos and again to clean the kitchen, but I couldn't bring myself to return and finish that post. Honestly, I didn't feel like writing about solutions because I wasn't feeling very solution-minded. I felt blocked, disconnected from the subject, and frankly, blue. My friend Christiana, her account is Possibility Maven, speaks about how we have not taken the time to grieve the loss of the 2024 election. We are so busy trying to organize and resist, we have not had a moment's breath to acknowledge the heavy, heavy weight of our collective loss. After all, it wasn't just the election we lost and must grieve. It is the grief of the America we could have had. It's the progress we could have made. It's the opportunity cost. That pent-up sorrow needs to be set free, to be honored and felt. But who has time for that right now? And so we scramble along trying to defend our neighbors, to push or drag kicking and screaming our electeds, and to build an effective resistance. But that grief is still there, rattling around inside us, still demanding to be sat with. And there are times when it rattles so hard that we must acknowledge it. We may not have time to do that grief justice, but we cannot ignore it completely. Today was one of those days for me. I couldn't do anything else until I spent some time in an Isaiah 53:3 moment, getting acquainted with grief. If the world was how it should be, maybe I could get some sleep. This evening, I set everything else aside, and like other times over the past few months, when that sorrow demands to be felt, found myself putting on some jars of clay. Their music carried me through so many seasons of grief and loss and doubt before it makes sense to turn to them in another dark and difficult time, even if the meaning of their music hits differently for me post deconstruction. There's one Jars song in particular that has often helped me feel supported in sadness, particularly existential grief. It's entitled Oh My God, and it came out when I was pregnant with my third child, who is now 17. I probably listened to it a dozen times on a loop tonight, working through my feelings. It's a lament that speaks directly into the lived experience of so many Americans in 2025. I highly recommend that you take a minute and search it up. Jars of Clay. Oh my God, the album is good, Monsters. Absolutely worth listening to. I was going to read the last two stanzas, which I reference here, but I can't read them and do them justice. So I really encourage you to go listen to the song. It's well worth 6 minutes of your life. The last 3 lines of it are all the cries of thirsty children. This is our inheritance, all the rage of watching mothers. This is our greatest offense. The last 2 long stanzas of the song hit particularly hard tonight. Listening, I think about the ICE raids, families ripped apart, people with their bodies beaten and their freedoms taken. I think about the way so many Americans have divorced themselves from their humanity so they can easily dehumanize and brutalize others. I think about the millions of children traumatized because of the insatiable greed of a few hollow, miserable men. I grieve this reality, and I grieve the way it should have been for all of us right now. We all deserve so much better than this. The sadness is real, the loss is real, and I feel it intensely tonight. It's not my intent to bring you down with this post at all. Rather, I want to be real and to encourage you that it's normal and healthy and good for us to experience, to feel, and to honor the grief of being a person living through this time. I try to be a mix of pragmatic and hopeful in my content. I'm hyper conscious of the obligation I have to my audience to not demoralize them or freak them out, but at the same time, it's not helpful or honest to ignore the complete range of human emotion that comes with living through a dark time like this one, when our faith in humanity is so profoundly shaken. This is hard. So many people are so disconnected from their humanity at a time when we know we must lean into and fully embrace ours in order to find a way out of this. And if we deny ourselves the experience of grief that comes in this time, we deprive ourselves of the depth and expanse of what it is to be fully human. It may feel like we can't afford the time to pause and feel the loss and process it. It may feel like we don't have the bandwidth to immerse ourselves in the grief, even for a short burst of time, for an evening here and there. But we deserve to experience it, to process it, and to own it. I know that sounds strange to we Americans who are often astoundingly grief avoidant, but this is our grief, and we have every right to feel it and work through it. We deserve to grieve and let that experience nurture our humanity and inform our choices going forward. Perhaps tomorrow or the next day, I'll return to that post about local organizing and embracing small solutions. I will. I'm getting to it this week, y'all. But tonight, I'm grateful that my body and spirit ground me to a halt and made me sit with my sorrow for a bit. I'm grateful that you let me be real enough to share that with you. Please know, when you find yourself in a similar place, it's right where you need to be. Even if it feels terrible in the moment, you deserve to feel your feelings, to process not only the past year, but the continual grief of living through this time. Your grief is normal. You deserve to be supported in experiencing it. Thank you for allowing me the time and space in this place here to grieve as well. Let me leave you with a few questions to ponder. What would it look like to create and hold more space for yourself to grieve the last year? What good can come from taking time to experience grief? What would healthy grieving in 2025 and 2026 look like to you? Can we make more time and space for us to process that grief together collectively? What would that involve? How could we facilitate that for each other? What would be different if we all got the time and space and support we needed to grieve the election the last year, the loss of so much, including the future that we had hoped for? If you want me to keep sharing my Substacks here, let me know.